Hi everybody out there in Flosstube world. I am Chris of Xrossstitch, and this is my third Flosstube video. This is my fourth Flosstube video, 10th Flosstube video, 14th Flosstube video, 18, 20. Wow, that's interesting to hear myself say. 22. 22 was my best friend's in elementary and junior high, my best friend's jersey number. 23, Judy Turner. Random. And it is Tuesday, November 16th, 2021, and this is Flosstube number 27. I'm so happy that, did you really think that I'm gonna do this the whole video? And this is Flosstube number 31. Understand that I'm going to be getting my footing for these first few videos. I don't know how often I'm going to do a video. I don't know how these are going to turn out. And, you know, I might even scrap this whole idea after I watch this back. But if you're seeing this, it made the cut. I'm absolutely overwhelmed. It's an amazing journey, let me tell you. It's hard to say. Let me put my teeth back in. I just turned into Mr. Ed. With each and every one of these that I do, I get more excited, I have more fun, and I enjoy this journey and this process more each and every passing day. And the reason that I am enjoying it that much is because of you, each and every single one of you. I have found that I look forward to these sessions where I sit in the corner of my bedroom and talk to you for half an hour so very much. And I'm so glad that you have taken the time to join me today. This is a channel about cross-stitching. So if you found your way here by mistake, now's the time. And if you are a returning viewer, you're the greatest. I really believe that I have the greatest viewers on Flosstube, and I know I'm partial, but hey, you feel more and more like a family and less like viewers to me. I've got a whisker, a rye whisker. This thing's a lot of work. Where in Alabama did you grow up? You have never heard of my hometown. Usually anytime I say that, there's always one cheeky person in the group wherever I am who has somehow heard of it. But I grew up in a very, very small town in northwest Alabama, 5 miles from the Mississippi state border. It is named Sulligent. It's not very big. There was I think there's still less than 2,000 people. We had 3 traffic lights, one of them blinked, where people rarely locked their doors, and you know, you could leave the keys in the car when you went into the Piggly Wiggly to get your gallon of milk. For fun, on Friday evenings, we used to ride around the block. There was only one. And if you were one of the rough boys, you parked next to the railroad and drank beer. But needless to say, I wasn't very rough. What is behind you, Christopher? If last week you heard me refer to this amazing piece of driftwood, teak driftwood, as tiki, there is a reason behind that, and that is because of 2 of my viewers, one a fellow Flosstuber. It is because of the insight and creative mind of my friend Kathy at To Die House Flosstube channel and my viewer Helen W. Together, they have officially named this Tiki, the Tree of 1,000 Faces. Listen, this is like silly putty back here. It stretches and it bends and you could see all sorts of things. She saw a white kitty cat. And I can see that too. My friend Michael over at the Flosstube channel Star Parade sends me this cute little outline. He saw a Scottish Terrier. Wendy E saw a lovely dead mouse hanging by its tail, which I'm glad I never saw. An upside down rubber hand. I got nothing. I had a friend who, when we first got this and when we redecorated the house, came in and the first words out of their mouth was, "Oh my gosh, the top of that looks like a cat doing a handstand." Here we go. Yes, cat doing a handstand. I see it plain as day, and every single morning when my eyes pop open, I see a cat doing a handstand, which is kind of amazing. But we always start each video here at Xrossstitch with naming handstanding cat. Several weeks ago, I asked for your suggestions for names, and there were too many to choose from, so we're just picking a new one each and every week. This week, handstanding cat's name is Sandy, Bobbin, Tumbelina, Stanley, Willow, Woody, Acrocat, Friday, Ta-da, Whip, Blueberry, in honor of my little cat Blueberry, Drift, Daffodil, Woodson. That's very kind of alpine cottage, fire roaring, wearing a, cream-colored turtleneck, cable knit, Angora sweater sort of name. Woodson. Hello, Woodson. Oh, Woodson, how is the skiing today? Something's in the air with me today. Snickle Fritz. I was in the performing arts for many years. My career was in the musical theater. I was a professional dancer, singer, actor. I've done everything pretty much, from Shakespeare to performing in parks for children. But the majority of my career was in the musical theater. I traveled with shows and did regional theater and danced all over the place for the better part of from the time I was 18 and first started working professionally until, just a few years ago. And I had a very varied and wonderful career working with amazing people, seeing wonderful places. And I'm happy with that. I'm happy to wrap that up in a little package and put it on the shelf. For one reason, when you're primarily a dancer, you do have a shelf life, and I can't do now what I did when I was 22. The body just doesn't work that way. I can still move well. I certainly can still sing, and I can still act. So I wouldn't say that I'm completely going to retire. The world has changed, and I've changed, and I want to focus on different things. I'm not exactly sure what those are right now. The Wizard of Oz Secret Stitch Along by Satsuma Street. Say that 3 times fast. The Wizard of Oz, see, I can't even do it. This is tedious, y'all. I stitched on linen, you guys. I know, it's nothing. It's like a little dot. This is actually a cherry, Basket of Cherries, Garden Club Series 1 by Blackbird Designs. I started my Prairie Schooler Santa. Yay! The needle feel is very delicate. See, I am going to coin a term for Flosstube if it kills me. Needle feel, that's one of them. Oh, and one of my commenters said that she'll never call it cross country anymore. She will now forever call it landscaping. My Halloween cat had a start. There's that. Here's my back. I'm not going to do that with every piece. You would not want to see the back of my full coverage. Hilda's hayride. Now this doesn't look very much like a hayride. Isn't that back cute? I started my Quaker Christmas, and I just love it. I really love it. It's so good. And I started Glendon Place's Sleepy Hollow. Now this is not much. I'm sorry. It's like bum, ba, bum, This is a chart that I first saw on my friend Michael's YouTube Flosstube channel. This is my start. It's not very much. I'm looking very austere. I'm looking like I'm 50, I suppose. My birthday start actually, was a piece by Jacob at Modern Folk Embroidery called MHD 1864, a Zealand sampler. This is my start. My birthday present Dimensions kit, which is Star Wars. It's the Star Wars poster of Luke and Princess Leia. And it was a modest start, but I did jump into it. Miss Cherry Blossom. This was inspired by my Uncle Jimmy, but this is a modest start. There would have been more, but I'll be honest with you, I stitched a whole section of a light bluish gray, hated the way the stitches looked, and I took it all out yesterday morning. My third September start is Modern Folk Embroidery's Spirits of the Dead. I did start The Nutcracker Tree by X's and O's. And here we come to the first great disappointment of Criss-Cross Stitch as a channel. I've been working on When Witches Go Riding, the secret stitch along by the Tiny Modernist. You've seen it. It was going great. And I started stitching that angel and I realized it didn't look like it was centered to me. And so I counted. Well, not only was that not centered, somehow, some way, this was off in 3 different places. I have no idea where I got off or how I got off in so many places. That does not happen to me. This was like major catastrophe in 3 different places. I'm gonna restart it. I haven't restarted it yet because I'm letting the pain of it fade. I'm gonna put this down for just a second. Hold on. Magic. Isn't that amazing how that just can happen? I think it's remarkable. It can happen in other ways too. It can happen even quicker. Watch this. That used to just be the greatest thing on Bewitched. Or I Dream of Jeannie. She did it with a doink. Ow. I started Modern Folk Embroideries, one of the newest charts, and I have to go get it. I totally could have just edited that normally, but I found that harkless sound effect this past week and I was just like, oh baby, that's going in. You know, it's funny when you do Flosstube, you think you have everything prepped and ready, and then you sit down and you realize one thing that you need to talk about is all the way across the house in another part of the house in another box. So I need to go get that right now. Please excuse me. Okay, so I love that so much. That I dipped very briefly in a dye bath of black Rit dye came out beautifully, absolutely beautifully. And I wanted to show it to you, and it's in the other room. Hold on. Wow, it's windy up there that time. So we're gonna open another bundle, but I have to go get it. I guess I'll have to do it again this week too. I did it last week. I tried to split it up, but you know, what the heck. I must have run into a barbershop quartet. You know, one of these days they're gonna be puppets. I just know they're gonna be puppets. This is my friend Sal, and my viewer Christy P said, when I heard you talking about one day there was going to be puppets, I had to send you a puppet because she makes them. So Sal, you're just fantastic. Did you know that? One of my dear Flosstube friends is Somi Sarah. Well, last week, to my great surprise and joy, her dear daughter Charlotte came on the channel, made a special appearance on the channel, and sang happy birthday to me. Sal was so moved by it that he was moved to make a little special card for her, didn't you, Sal? Yeah. Well, where's the card? You forgot the card. Well, that's okay. We'll just go get the card. All right, you ready? Hold on. Well, there's no need to be frightened. Just hold on, okay? You ready? Okay. Now that wasn't so bad, was it? Okay. Well, you're holding a crooked. He's a ham, but he's a sweetie. There you go, Sal. Sal, can you show everybody your costume? There you are. You were probably hanging around in the scraps when I did the Hildy's Hayride fully finished piece, weren't you? The other piece, Sal, you're slacking on your job. What? Really? Grover was his second cousin. You're very distracting. You know, what is the saying? Never work with children or animals. Never work with children, animals, or puppets, right? So cute. Oh my gosh, you're gonna be a hit. Yeah, just a hit. And so many of you love this segment because it reminds you of memories that you had, and that's what this is all about. It's about taking a little bit of time out of our day to go back to a happier, less stressful moment in our lives, and letting that moment bring a smile to our faces to carry throughout the rest of the day. I'm sitting on a bar stool, and if you noticed in the last video, the moments when I look like I'm doing this, it's not that I'm on a ship or anything like that. It's that I get off the bar stool and then I get back on the bar stool and then I have to get settled. So I'll try not to be like a weeble. And that's another story. I'm dating myself again. Weeble, you know, remember Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down? It was a toy in the 70s. It was like an egg. It was basically an egg with a person painted on it. It wobbled. I'm dating myself. Nobody's gonna know who that is. I had no idea last week when I just offhandedly mentioned Weebles that it was going to be such an evocative term for all of you. So I got a picture, and I actually had these. I had these very, well, not these very ones, but I had these exact ones of them. Probably my favorite toy as a child, which was the Fisher-Price Castle playset. The Sears and Roebuck catalog wish book. This was so exciting to us as children. We would carry these to school and circle them and look through the pages until they were almost in tatters. My cousins, for example, had this set of steel appliances, and we used to play in their basement for hours on those things. And I thought it would be nice to talk a little bit about my buddy Snoopy. And this was one of the first toys that I remember. This play set. But it didn't stop there. No, I had the Snoopy toothbrush holder. See, Sonicare, listen to me. Hear my words, Sonicare. Make me a Snoopy Sonicare. I will be the first one in line. Then there was the Snoopy snow cone machine. And finally, this plush. I didn't have a teddy bear. I had this. This went everywhere with me. I love him. I love him, I love him, I love him. And, you know, on my deathbed, I want a Snoopy under my arm. This picture shows me with sporting a fabulous 1970 white tanked turtleneck. Gosh, I wish I had that now. But behind me, you will see the Fisher-Price Castle, which I loved, and you will see the Snoopy and Friends playset, which I talked about most recently. And by the way, happy birthday, Snoopy. Today, August 10th, is Snoopy's official birthday. So the toy that I'm going to talk about today is the Fisher-Price Sesame Street playset. Yes, very, very exciting. You know people on Sesame Street, don't you? Yes, you do. Okay, great. I loved it. I loved everything about it. The $6 Million Man and the Bionic Woman. There were these fembot things that their faces lifted off, and that kind of, it traumatized me a little bit, Sal. The 1975 Mego Star Trek USS Enterprise action playset. And I loved this thing. Not only did I love playing with it, I loved playing or drawing with it. I loved playing with the rings for all sorts of things. They became bracelets and frisbees and what have you, but spirograph. The other toy that you may not know about is the Mighty Men and Monster Maker. Color Forms, Lincoln Logs, and Tinker Toys. And a toy from my childhood that brought me absolute happiness was Dapper Dan. That red vest and those yellow shoes and those checkered pants and all of, 5 strands of hair on his head, bless his heart. I started thinking why this brings me so much happiness and why so many of you responded to it. And I've been thinking a lot about that. You're a grown man, you're talking about toys. But I don't think we ever need to stop being childlike in some regards. That sense of wonder and joy and discovery and drive to learn is something I think should be present with us throughout our lives. And that's why I unabashedly will continue to talk about my toys that I had as a child, because they formed me, they made me who I am in the playing with them. They formed my relationships with the loving adults who were giving them to me. And, in a world that's sometimes very bleak, sometimes we need a Weeble. We need to remember the Play-Doh, or what it felt like to open that Millennium Falcon that Christmas morning. It's important. And if I'm, going to bring you a toy every 2 weeks or every week that makes you happy, I'm going to do it. These are 2.5 magnification. I look like Mr. Magoo. Do you see my wheels spinning? If smoke starts coming out of my ears, it's always a roller coaster here at Xrossstitch. And you never know what you're going to get or when you're going to get it. This is not a brain in a jar. She was distracted at one point during one of my videos because this looked like a brain in a jar. And you know what it does? I am not a mad scientist. I am mad as a hatter, but I'm not a mad scientist. It's actually rocks with a beautiful little seashell in there. Halloween, check back. It might be a brain in a jar, not a real brain. Muha is a funny name. It kind of sounds like the way a cow would respond to a joke. Muha. Oh, I've tickled myself. Anyway, that's so I did a lot of I might edit that out. See, there's no edits here. I just leave these kind of bloopers in because y'all love to see me making a fool of myself. I cry at the drop of a hat. I actually work my computer with my foot. In the plans and ongoing business section of Xrossstitch's video today, that came out of my mouth and it tickled me right as I was saying it. What am I? I mean, it's not like this is Apple. Oh, I shouldn't say that. They might be listening. I'm on an iPhone, so they might be listening. They probably are listening. No, I'm not a corporation. It is hot in Southern California today. As my Aunt Johnny May used to say, it's hotter than a streetwalker in Sunday school. Most of my stories are born out of something that I'm stitching, that I'm working on, and either while I'm stitching, I a memory comes up, or I'm stitching it specifically for somebody in my life. I don't make these up beforehand. This is not like written material. I don't know if it will be funny or it'll go over, like a lead balloon. When I was a little bitty boy, growing up in Alabama, I grew up with my grandmother and my mother and my great aunt. My great aunt Johnny May. And our house was right next door to the church. So every Sunday evening, before Sunday church services, all my family would come over and visit. And I had lots of great aunts and uncles. And these were older Southern people, very proper. And people would stop by and say hello. And one afternoon, one of our resident beauticians in the town. She's no longer with us. She was old then, but her name was Miss Christine Wise, and she always just looked beautiful. Nails done, hair done, pretty pearls, ear bobs, as they call them. And she was sitting there one day, and I was only 3 years old. And this story had to be told to me because I don't remember this happening, but every single one of those people in that room, of all my extended family, great aunts and uncles and my grandmother and my mother and Miss Christine Wise, they all told, this is factual. I crawled over to Miss Christine, crawled up into her lap and said, Miss Christine, you look real pretty, but your purse and your shoes don't match. 3 years old, people. I found a photo of a birthday party that I had in 1976. And for those of you who have heard me say I was raised by all these lovely Southern women, I give you this priceless gem of a photograph. This was one of my birthday parties. Notice there are no children. People in small towns are funny. And I don't know to this day what it was that my mother had done that got them upset with her. I think she might have broken a casserole dish at a fellowship supper. Anyway, I didn't trick or treat at their house that year. I love this photograph so much. I just love it. That is a snapshot of my life. Me and the octogenarians. And then, you guys, it was like the Valkyries leaving Valhalla. The sky filled with these black bats. And I was like, wait a minute, what are the umbrellas for? And then I found out what the umbrellas were for. And why didn't they tell me to bring an umbrella? Because you are a cross-stitcher when. Today, I got in the shower and I looked down in the shower floor, and there was a big hunk of floss. I don't know where it came from. Talk about over-the-top Flosstube. I think I may have just taken the cake for over-the-top Flosstube. In first grade, I was Halloween king. It was the first time and the last time I ever won anything by popular vote. We began raising money. Now, my mother, she did not know exactly how to go about doing such. Other children's mothers made brownies and did bake sale type things and what have you, but no, not my mother. She took pictures of me and put them on jars and put them around town in the stores. Basically, I was trying to raise money by tip jars. I had nothing to do with this decision and failed miserably at it. Fifi and I were not chosen overall Halloween king and queen for first grade. It sure is a hoot to talk about now because it's just so ludicrous. You know, that Halloween carnival was a big deal. There were raffles and prizes and bobbing for apples and what have you, but the big controversial event of the evening that everybody was all in about was the cakewalk. They would go around the room for cakes that everybody would bring and donate to the thing. And let me tell you, those things could get cutthroat. It was quite remarkable. You never know the power of a good caramel cake until you until you see Betty Jean knocked to the linoleum. Next week, I want to talk about my hair as the second thing that's room for improvement. My hair is flat today. I look like Shakespeare. Have you guys figured out that I love using those edits so that you don't see the back of my head? I conditioned it. So I did not get a haircut, although I did shave the sides of my head clearly, as you can see. You know who I look like? I look like Edna Mode. I didn't anticipate it was going to be this short. No capes, darling. I assure you that my mop of a head of hair is all still there. It's just restrained at the moment with a complex system of ropes and pulleys attached to the back of my head. You said my mustache matched my sweater last week. And you know what? It did. Totally did. Yep. Kind of does this week too. And the more gray I wear, the more it's going to match my mustache. But I'm bad about not putting that needle on that needle minder. And I put it in my mouth. I went to get my needle and I couldn't find my needle. I stood up and I looked for this rogue needle for about 5 minutes. And then I said, well, I've got another needle here. I'll just use that one. Sat down, got my floss, got my needle, went to lick the floss. Guess where the needle had been? It was in my mustache. The needle was in my mustache. True story. But Sandy Ego Stitcher wrote me a sweet story. It has sparked me to have an idea. This is the story. I don't know how this started, but as a little girl, my sisters and I, when the Michigan weather allowed, would make my father come outside and walk on his hands on the front lawn. Because if your dad can walk on his hands, you just have to get the neighbor kids over every so often for a show. But even better, every time he did, all the change in his pockets would fall out, unbeknownst to him. We would clap, he would bow and go back into the house. Once he was safely inside, We would snatch all the change out of the grass. Candy money. Here's the rest of the story. We were adults when we told him why we actually had him walk on his hands, and he told us what he did in that minute after we called for him to come out and before he appeared was go into the bedroom, reach into his top dresser drawer, into a special recycled cottage cheese container that he had hidden in the back, grab a handful of change, and load up his pockets. All 5 of us kids and Dad had a big laugh together that day when we all learned the truth, and all those years he let us believe we were fooling him. My dad died in 2004. I'm hoping you'll name the hand-walking cat Ted in memory of my beloved, so very missed, fun-loving, hand-walking dad, Ted. Everyone deserves a dad like him. Yes, they do. And I'm not going to name hand-walking cat after Ted. That deserves something greater. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have back here on my table where Brain in a Jar sits, usually, I'm going to have Ted's change jar. And every video that I have done thus far, and every video that I will do until the end of the year, the number of comments will be the amount of change that goes into that jar. And at the end of the year, I'm going to donate all of that money to Dolly's Imagination Library, which provides needy children with books, 1 a month, sent to their home. $25 can provide 1 child with 12 books during an entire year. And I'm sure we'll have more than that by the end of this year. And I will make that donation in honor of your dad, Ted, and the viewers of this Flosstube channel. So, there you go. I hope that is, to me, a much more fitting tribute to your father and the kindness that he exercised with the children. I believe in reading. I think education is fundamental to every aspect of who we are. And I can think of no better way to honor him. So thank you for the story. Thank you for the inspiration. And from now on, you'll see Ted's change jar back here on my console. Sounded like a news anchor. Today is Tuesday, November 23rd, 2021. Anyway, if you are a new viewer, I'm crazy. Another of my viewers mentioned that the actual term for hashtag is Octothorpe. Octothorpe. I did not know that. The whole hashtag concept to me is a little bit foreign. My experience with a hashtag was, it was that button you pushed, well, that you never pushed on your phone at the bottom, and we called it the pound sign. That kind of looks like the map of the world. Europe kind of scooched across the Atlantic Ocean a bit. I am as silly as they come, mad as a hatter. My first telephone wasn't even a push button. It was one of those old black, heavy black-handled receivers that if anybody broke into the house, you could hit them over the head with it and knock them out. Raindrops on roses and whiskers on kittens, bright copper cat. Damn car alarm can't even keep a beat. I'm going to go ahead and keep this in, what you're about to see. But my apologies for getting so emotional. But who I am is who I am, and I want to be authentic with you every step of the way. So here we go. Miss Mary Wills Jonquils. I was an only child on a street of widow women. It was tree-lined and beautiful little houses, and it was Mayberry. I was the only child on that particular street because, well, for many years. And Miss Mary Will was an amazing lady. She was an English teacher. There was a teacher exchange program between the United States and the United Kingdom. And I believe this was immediately in the years after the war. And she went over and taught English literature and in England. Mary Will and I hit it off. She had the most beautiful jonquils growing, or daffodils, growing in her, along her path to her house, which was immaculate. And every time my grandmother and I would walk to town, in the spring, I would always want to, see, I'm getting choked up, and I already know the end of the story, and but I can't do it. We would be walking down the street, and I would want to pick one of those flowers, and I'd do it. Granny, I'd plan it. I would plan it as I approached, because my grandmother didn't want me to do it. And every time, Miss Mary Will would come out on her front porch, and she'd say, "Marie, you let that child pick that jonquil. That's what they're there for." She had this wonderfully refined and elevated Southern accent. It was very, she never articulated an R in her life. She loved to hear about stories that I'd read, and Sherlock Holmes and any of the British authors. We would have long conversations. She was absolutely a divine creature on the face of this earth. And everyone loved her. Everyone loved her. One Saturday, shortly before I went away to college my freshman year, I was driving around the block. There was only one. And I saw Miss Mary Will walking. She walked. She was very, fit. And she was elderly. She was in her, no, she had to have been in her 80s at this point. But she was a go-getter. She was walking, and I had not seen her in several weeks for some reason. And I pulled over, and I hopped out of the car, and I ran up and I hugged her. And I said, "Miss Mary Will, I'm not going to see you very much coming up. I'm going to, I'm leaving for school." And she, of course, she knew. But she was very sweet. And she said to me, Mary Will said to me, something that I've taken with me my entire life. She said, "Christopher, I never look at a spring flower when I don't think of you." So here's the moral of that story. And I'm not, I don't ever want to get preachy. Or, because I'm nobody. I'm just, I'm not a psychologist or whatever. But here's the moral of that story to me. You never know how you affect people, and you never know what impact you have on their lives. You never should look back on your life and think at any moment that it was meaningless, or that you didn't achieve what you wanted to achieve, or do the things you wanted to do. You have purpose in this world. And sometimes the smallest things will be gifts that you give people, some of whom you may never know, for the rest of their lives. You have no idea how you touch people as you move through this world. Mary Will probably had no idea what she did for me, but she changed me irrevocably, and I'm all the better for it. And I'm so happy to share her with you, because what is remembered lives. And so yeah, think of Mary Will when you see a daffodil every spring. I think she'd like that. People sometimes ask me if I can do impressions. I can't. You know how some people do actual impressions and they're really good at it? I can't do any. The only impression that I can do is Miss Piggy when she's mad. That's it. That's all I got. To the meat. Well, that was good, but this is to the meat stuff. I'm going to cut this section out. To the meat stuff. It makes me sound like a butcher. Oh, that smells like new book. Ah. Oh, you know what that smell is? That's the smell of the day the books arrived at school from Scholastic. You remember those? That adorable little jingle, that music that all of you love, that piece of music is called Spring Chicken. And I'm not. Ellen at the Maximum Cross-Stitch Power Hour. And apparently she wants me to come to her home and read her bedtime stories every night. That's hysterical. But there is a thing called a Claxton fruitcake that comes in a rectangular cardboard box. I love it. And she asked, what instrument did I play in the marching band? I played the snare drum. And the funny thing about that is that the snare drum was bigger than I was. My aunts had the craziest names. I had an Aunt Clara, who I loved. She was beautiful. My Aunt Clara was you know how you talk about angels walking on the face of the earth? She was one of them. And every time they would get in a new shipment of little golden books, she would buy a few and bring them to me. And as a result, I can't remember a time when I couldn't read. And the reason is because of my Aunt Clara and these little golden books that she got for me. I had an Aunt Hattie Clow. I used to sit in her lap and play with her necklaces and her ear bobs. But here are the strange ones. I had an Aunt Girly. She wasn't. I had an Aunt Ola, O-L-A. Aunt Ola was, and the reason I thought of Aunt Ola is because she had an apple orchard. But I would go through that apple orchard and play in the apple orchard and pick apples and have the best time with her. Aunt Ola had flaming red hair. There's a strain of temper in my family, and Aunt Ola had it. My granddaddy and she were both teenagers. She was peeling potatoes out on the front porch of their big family house. There were 12 children. And he said something that made her mad. She threw a knife at him. He said it missed him. It did miss him. And she was a little bit regretful when she would tell that story. She was tough, but incredibly loving. She was a wonderful woman, a smart lady, and thankfully not a good shot with a paring knife. Which, if that's strange, her sister-in-law, my other aunt, was Mavola. Mavola, M-A-L-V-O-L-A. The L was silent. It's hot in Alabama, so she'd just wear knee-high stockings. And she'd come over and she'd sit down and she'd roll those stockings down until they were around her ankles, because she was hot, bless her. And I used to love when I was, and she did it very neatly, so it was like there was a perfect little donut around her ankle of stocking, of a little bagel of nylon. I had Aunt Johnny May, which I've mentioned before, is my Aunt Johnny May. You know, I think I'm not going to get emotional, and then I say their name and I feel the tears coming into my eyes. But every morning, without fail, she would get up, she would bathe, she would powder herself with her Chantilly powder, and do her hair, do her face, dress in one of her polyester pantsuits as they wore in that day. And all she would do all day long aside from helping Granny with the cooking. She would sit on the ottoman, read her Harlequin romance novels, smoke Salem cigarettes, and watch her soap operas. The angriest I ever saw my Aunt Johnny Mae get was when some of my cousins from California were visiting and they wanted to take a picture of her, but she was not ready, had to have her picture taken, and they went into her bedroom when she wasn't looking and they took a picture of her in her slip. She got so mad. I was fascinated with her. I loved her. Johnny Mae was the one that when I couldn't get it out of Mother and I couldn't get it out of Grandmother, I'd go to Johnny Mae and Johnny Mae would give it to me. She was the woman close to me early on that was pure joy and love. And you could tell when she was dealing with me that I was that to her. My Aunt Johnny Mae. These women shaped me so immeasurably. And the older I get, the more I miss them, and the more I realize how much they impacted me and how grateful I am that they were in my life. My grandmother, as you know, raised me. She was my mother for all intent and purpose. And she was the single greatest shaper of my life. And I miss her every single day. So, thanks, Grandma, Granny. I called her Mamu when I was a little bitty boy. She was 69 when I was born. Boy, she was a steel magnolia if ever there was one. But there were a few things that could frighten her. Furry things bothered her. So one day I heard her screaming bloody murder and come tearing down the house, yelling for me to call the police. Christopher, call the police, call the police. And I'm like, why are we calling the police? But I went back to the kitchen, and there on the kitchen table was a possum. She came up behind me and she's like, we got to, call the police so they can come get it. And I'm like, Granny, I'm not going to call the police. I'm not going to call the police to get a possum off the kitchen table. That said, I didn't know how I was going to get the possum off the kitchen table. So I got the broom and went in, and possums are not afraid of you. They are especially not afraid of you if they are an Alabama possum. Now, I've had possums in my yard here. These are California possums. California possums are pushovers. Alabama possums are formidable. You can ride them like ponies. And it reared up on its hind legs and it growled and hissed at me. And that's when I considered calling the police. But I got it off the table and I got it out of the back door and out the back porch, and it didn't come back. But needless to say, from that point on, Granny kept the back door latched. As I was working on this over the weekend, I was thinking a lot about my grandmother. Specifically, her love of those amazing dark chocolate covered cherry cordials. She had a sweet tooth and she loved those things. I loved them too. They would usually come out around the holidays, those cherry cordials. I hadn't been around a whole lot of other children by the time I was ready for kindergarten. Mother took me there and dropped me off at the trailer because we only had 3 kindergarten classes, then they were in trailers out behind the elementary school building on the other side of the playground. It being hot in Alabama, the trailer door was open. And I saw a getaway. I tore out of that trailer, across the playground, right next to my Uncle Henry and Aunt Hattie Clo's house, and they were both sitting out on the porch. Hey! I literally lived a block away from the schoolhouse. And that entire run took me all of 5 minutes probably. I was fast. I was a toddler on a mission. Mother was none too pleased when she got home that afternoon from work. The next morning, I was taken back to kindergarten, and this time they shut the door. At about midday when we went out for recess, I was gone. Back across the ditch, back beside Aunt Clara's house, Uncle Henry had the whole 9 yards, back home. They decided to let me stay at home from kindergarten the rest of the year because I could already read. And then first grade rolls around. And I tried to do the same thing. It was harder, but the first day, again, at recess, I ran away. So my grandmother, every day, came to our school. And she sat outside my classroom on a little stool next to the water fountain so that I could see her through the window of the door. She just sat there. She just sat there to be near me, to give me security. That's who she was. That's who my grandmother was. So this is for her. I didn't pick it for her when I started it, but boy, has this become her piece. One of many, I'm sure. And I never thanked her for that. I never thanked her for sitting with me. For 2 weeks, she did that. But thank you, Granny, for doing that for me. It turned out okay. Thank you so much. And this is for you. Question: do the people in your life like your stitching? Yes, they do, because you're the people in my life. And you like my stitching. Gosh, 5 minutes in and I'm teary. By and large, this sounds so strange, but by and large, it's this community. It's this neighborhood. I want to be the Mr. Rogers of Flosstube because this is the neighborhood that I like to share my work in. And I think it's great. So yes, the people in my life enjoy my stitching. I received from my viewer, Linda M, an amazing thing. She sent me this. It's a little Mr. Rogers figurine with an accompanying book. And listen.
Do you have some favorite neighbors where you live? I mean, real neighbors with whom you can talk and play and ask for help if you need it? I hope so.
Now, I had no idea that that was the one that was going to play. And that's perfect. Because I have those neighbors that I can talk and laugh with and play with and ask for help if I need it. And that's you. And that's what we should all be for each other. Again, I can't hold a candle to this guy right here. But as an inspiration, as a person to strive towards being more like, I couldn't have a greater one than Mr. Rogers. So thank you, Linda, for this. I will treasure it. The main thing is I'm hooked. I love this hobby. I love this community. If you'll have me, we'll keep going. So you make me smile as much as you say that I make you laugh and smile. My life is brightened by it every week, more and more, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. And to hear that in some small way that you listened to me over your coffee and I made you giggle, that makes me very happy. It makes me feel like I'm doing something. It makes me feel like I'm doing something good, and I'm being a good human being. So, I get emotional really quickly, and I can't thank you all enough for your support and your encouragement. I cherish my neighborhood of viewers and friends. I can't imagine not having all of you now, and that's a wonderful thing, I think. This collective community of kindness. So that's today's video. I think I've said it a million times today and throughout the past few weeks. I'm so thankful for all of you. I'm so grateful for all of you. And I hope that you have a wonderful holiday and many, many good memories and new traditions. And I hope that you have an amazing, prosperous, and healthy, happy 2022. Take care. Much love to you all. And until next time, bye-bye.